So there are some people, I mean, listen, you guys are trying to get me to stop doing TV, and there were a lot of people out there that are trying to get the Jets to stop playing Zach Wilson. And they finally got their wish yesterday. Finally got their wish. He was benched in the midst of that awful performance against the Buffalo Bills where they could get nothing going. The defense kept holding him to field goals, kept seemingly making stops, and then ultimately just succumbed to the fact that the New York Jets on offense have nothing to show for it. Garrett Wilson seems frustrated. Everybody seems frustrated, so much so that Tim Boyle was brought in and played quarterback. He also turned the ball over a bunch of times. Robert Saleh spoke afterwards, the head coach of the New York Jets, and he talked about when they can expect a decision to be made as far as the starting quarterback goes for this week's game on Black Friday against the Miami Dolphins.
Everything's accelerated. You don't have Monday and Tuesday to dissect and breathe for a second, but we'll be pretty quick with it, obviously.
So what do you guys think? Is it going to be Zach Wilson? Is it going to be Tim Boyle? How are we rocking this?
The tough thing is who gives them a better chance to win? Because all you're trying to do at this point is trying to get to Aaron Rodgers healthy and playing in meaningful games. Because if you can't get to that point, which I believe he's going to start practicing December 2nd, is that what I saw?
Yeah.
If you can't get to that point, then he ain't coming back, and there's no reason to have him come back. So Zach Wilson, it's people are going to hate me for he gives you the best chance to win. He does. The problem, I think, is now starting to unfold. Now, this was my biggest concern when Rodgers went down, is we talked about Hackett then as a play caller. Now, I realize his job is made difficult because the offensive line at times has been great, and obviously Zach Wilson, he's played better, but this wasn't a bad example this week. This was probably one of his worst performances. So you find yourself now as a play caller calling plays. You're like, I don't know if it's going to work or not. I mean, it should work schematically. We have the matchup. We have Garrett Wilson 101, or we have, whatever the case may be. But you don't know if you can get the execution portion of it. So does Tim Boyle give you a better shot than Zach Wilson? No. But people just want change for change's sake sometimes. And unfortunately for Robert Saleh and, this staff, they put themselves in this position. They could have moved on from Zach Wilson. They could have drafted another guy or outside of Tim Boyle brought someone else in. They could have signed someone else when Rodgers went down, traded for something. They chose to do nothing. Like, if you are a frustrated Jets fan right now, it's not Zach Wilson's fault. He's been pretty much what he's been. It's the organization's fault for not at any point wanting to admit, maybe this wasn't what we thought, and we need to address this situation. So the reality is that you could be frustrated at Nathaniel Hackett, you can be frustrated at Zach Wilson. You should look higher than that, because ultimately that's who the fingers point to in this situation. They didn't prepare themselves to get themselves a shot. They could have signed Wentz, who now isn't there anymore, right? Playing for the LA Rams. There's a number of players they could have went to, and you would have thought, hey, you know what? Maybe it didn't work somewhere else, but they might give us a better shot than what we got on our roster right now. The Jets did nothing.
And that's damning, to not do anything at all to try to figure it out. At least show your team and your fans that you're trying something to figure it out. And that's a head scratcher. It truly is, because if you didn't know what you have in Zach Wilson, I hate to say it, you do now, definitively. And it didn't take seeing the bipolar Buffalo Bills spank you the way that they did for you to realize that. And it's just been one of those things, just seeing Robert Saleh watch it. You can tell by his facial expressions that he's not a buyer of it either. And yet he continues to stick up for Zach Wilson. He has continued to kind of, smoothly talk about how things will work themselves out, the way that they're going to work themselves out, just not being definitive in terms of trying to, I guess, salvage their season. And you've had a defense that has tried to be what they can be to help as much as they can help. And they're even starting to kind of get to a point of where they're getting worn down. And they have to deal with the idea of knowing that we're going to play our asses off and to no avail. And as a former defender, I'll tell you straight out, that is not a great feeling at all.
I was going to ask you, have you ever been in that spot before?
Have I? My entire pro career.
And at what point are you walking off the field, giving a glance?
Hell, my entire
offense?
college career. I had no offense. I had players, and we didn't have no play calling in college. And in the pros, we had players, we had no play calling. And you play your ass off, and you love your teammates, like more so in college than in pros. But in the pros, it's like you get to that sideline, and at some point when you continue to go 3 and outs, you go 3 and outs. You know what you start doing as defenders? You start trying to pump one another up. Like, there's so many explicitives that are used talking to one another. Like, you talk to the group, like, come on, y'all. Like, let's gut it the F up. Let's get the F out here, and let's knock these mother effers out, because these mother going to do nothing for us. They're not going to do nothing for us. So let's go. You start getting mad at one another. You try to pump one another up, and then they come walking off the field, and you punt the ball, and you're coming, and you're looking at them. The one thing I always hated, I ain't going to lie, Q, I'm sorry for this. I just hate how casual the quarterbacks always looked when our offense stink. I hated it. I hated the non-expression, just the cool movement, like, we can look at the film, like, whatever you're going to do, I'm going to go sit on the bench, like, and we're out here fighting for our lives. We're out here struggling. They have now started to do things that they would never do if you could score some points. Now we can't get on balance. Now we don't know what's coming because they can pretty much do whatever it is they want to do because our offense isn't challenging them at all. So what are we going to do? And that's where your New York Jets defense is. And Robert Saleh has watched it happen.
Yeah, well, here's the issue for quarterbacks, okay? I mean, one, you can't play the game too emotional.
Truth.
Because then it's going to impact a lot of your thought process, thinking, and everything else on your plate.
Truth.
But the other thing is everyone else out around us is emotional. Like everyone.
Truth.
The receivers, linemen sometimes, running back, everyone. Everyone else.
The defense.
The defense. You unfortunately have to deal with everyone being emotional. And so you kind of have to be the adult in the room sometimes. And mind you, you might be internally frustrated with the play calling.
True.
I mean, I'll never forget, and Jonas, I know you'll remember this. What was it, a Sunday night or a Monday night game with Jay Cutler when Martz was calling the plays in Chicago?
Oh, I think it was
Sunday night.
Yeah, I think it was Sunday night.
And what did he say after Martz called it a play?
Oh, I think he said, did he say F you? Or did he say, like, he said something, like he mouthed something like F you or something like that and just blew the play off.
I think he might have, it might have been like fat F, the F word bomb there at some point.
He lost it. But he could not control himself.
The point is like, a lot of times we're already having an internal battle of our own, not only with our own performance, but like dealing with everyone else. And there's times where, I mean, think about it. We can throw a perfectly thrown pass. It can get volleyball set up by the wide receiver, picked off. It goes on a drop for the receiver, great. Who's the more damning stat, though, an interception or a drop for a receiver?
The interception.
And ultimately, like, you can have a bad O-line, you can have a bad play caller, you can have no talent ability to separate a wide receiver, and who's going to get switched if everything's going wrong? The quarterback. Like, your job is so impacted by everyone else on the field, and you can a lot of times have to take the blame for it, even though ultimately it's not always on you. So you have to keep your calm through all of that, because otherwise you would go crazy.
I will say,
imagine that.
In those situations, I was an Alvin Mack type. Like, that was a good throw, Brady. Hey, Q, that was a good throw, bro. Let's go, y'all. Let's get him the ball back.
Did you ever hear the Brett Favre? Like, Brett
there.
Favre, he would always say when he'd come back after he throw like 1, 2, or 3 picks, would be like, "Come on now, defense, give me that ball back." And I used to always think to myself, like, how many quarterbacks get away with saying that to Brett Favre, right? Like, and I always thought back in my career, I'm like, why couldn't I have just labeled myself as a gun. Like, if you could get he's a gunslinger, though. Like, he's a gunslinger. I mean, I should have figured out a way of branding myself that in college. Just so that way you can always, he's a gunslinger, man. Like, just get him that football
he's
back.
Streaky.
Like, he throws 3 or 4 picks. Just get him that ball back.
That was his rep too. That was his rep.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's some guys who get that, and people are like, he's a gunslinger. So what? So what? He threw 3 or 4 picks.
He's going to kill you. He's going to eventually kill you.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang.
Here's the thing: is everyone loves a gunslinger. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, that guy. He could sling that.
That is smart marketing for certain. Now you think about it.
I'm telling you, if you're a quarterback right now and you're young, just get your mom and dad and start
he's a gunslinger.
Yeah, he's a gunslinger.
Well, you mentioned Cutler. Whenever Cutler would throw an interception or a bad one, because
he's a gunslinger.
Yeah, just like everyone would be like, "Oh my God, he doesn't even seem like he cares." He's a gunslinger. By nature, they're careless. That's what they do.
I know, but that's the thing. I'm like, why isn't every quarterback then by nature that?
By nature, yes.
Yeah.
They just didn't brand themselves the right way.
Yeah.
But, I mean, here's the thing for Zach, though. I feel bad because he has handled the adversity better than he ever has in his career. He's really matured and grown. He has been playing better football. This past week wasn't an example of that. I kind of do think they ran into a buzzsaw, too, by the way, versus Buffalo.
Bad spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a desperate Buffalo team. They've got to win out. They've got to put together some wins. And unfortunately, that was the team that they took it out on.